Hi everyone, Josh here, just to tell you that this video is an extract from our full Game Week 5 podcast from this week, where we review the top 5 players for XG and XA from the season so far. Hope you find it useful. Please like and subscribe if you do. And now I'll pass on to myself and Jack. Starting with the XG and XA, do you want to cover the top 5 XG players that we've got lined up?
Yes, indeed. Yep. Sure. I'll reel them off, and then we can talk about what we think of them. So, topping the XG now after a very interesting performance yesterday, I thought for Liverpool is Mane with 3.52. So that's 3.52 expected goals after 4 games. This is so we got Mane in the number 1 spot. Just behind him is Antonio with 3.5. So despite his red card and a poor performance generally, he's still in this top XG. DCL, the no-show tonight, is third with 3.16. Mo Salah, I think, makes his first appearance in the top 5 XG with 2.79. And then a very promising player, very interesting player to me, Conor Gallagher at 2.6, Crystal Palace, 2.6 XG for Conor. So that's the top 5 XG. Let's talk about them, Josh, shall we, before we go to the XA players? So first of all, Mane, Liverpool fan, Josh, what did you make of he got a goal. What did you make of his performance yesterday against, who was it against? I watched the game.
Leeds.
Leeds. What did you make of Mane?
He was shocking. I think to put it into context, yes, I think you look at 3.52 over the course of 4 games, pretty decent, getting on the way to having an average XG of getting 1 goal a game.
How many has he got? How many goals?
He's got 2 goals.
Right.
So he's incredibly underperforming for the opportunities according to the XG stats. 2 of that 3.52 is made up purely from that Leeds game.
I mean,
and he only scored 1 goal.
10 shots, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. The stat popped up towards the end of the game, and he had 10 shots, and Leeds only had 9 at that point.
Yeah, that was it. Leeds to him. I mean, yeah.
And he was just incredibly wasteful, not just with his shots, but with his overall general play. I feel like early in the game before Jota got taken off, it was free-flowing football from Liverpool, very good, even before Leeds had the red card. They looked dominant, but he looked like the kind of misfit out of the front 3, really, the one who wasn't so confident with his touch, trying to do lots of things, but missed passes, inaccurate passes. If I was going to sum it up in as least as many words as possible, it would be that he lacks precision at the moment. He took his finish very well, but the amount of opportunities that he had and the amount of chances he should have created for his teammates, it wasn't a great performance for him.
As a Jota owner, it was very frustrating watching him. Very, very annoying, because Jota, I think, put 2 or 3 on a plate for him, and he scuppered. And as you say, Jota was open a few times that Mane should have seen him instead of shooting. But what's interesting for me about the Mane thing is, you're right. If you're a fan or a coach or a fellow player to Mane, Liverpool, it's very annoying. But as an FPL manager, you kind of don't care if he misses 9, but he scores 1, and the fact he had 10 shots, that's kind of that's tantalizing as an FPL manager, isn't it, really? So it falls under one of those, yes, he's poor from a pure footballing standpoint, which should be doing a lot better. But 10 shots and 1 goal means points for a midfielder. And the fact that he's getting 10 chances is really good, really promising for an FPL manager. I mean, I had Mane in game week 1. He did nothing. Bruno got 3, so I sacked him off for Bruno, and then caught 2 of Bruno's blanks, which was great. Got rid of him. But yeah, that was the Mane I brought in, really. I kind of known that he wasn't on super hot form, but he does get in those chances, and he can finish. He just struggles to,
That was going to be the point that I was going to ask you. And maybe if I asked the question directly, you might have have a slightly different opinion. But
Ask me
do
directly.
you
Go
see
on.
the 3.52 as a positive thing as an FPL manager, as in maybe I should consider Mane, or do you see that 3.52 xG with only 2 goals scored and 9 chances missed in the Leeds game, for example, as a negative thing? So he's underperforming as a finisher. How would you see that, and would you then recommend him to other FPL managers, or would you say steer clear?
That's always $1 million question with XG, isn't it? Do you, if a player has a high one but they've underperformed it, is it a good or bad sign? And you really can spin it both ways. With Mane, I do see it as a good thing as an FPL manager. I don't think he is. The only reason I'd say he's a bad pick, in quotes, on a wild card, for example, would be because there are other premiums that are better. Like if you get him and Salah, then getting a Lukaku or a Ronaldo and a Trent is going to be very difficult without making your team bad. So it's not the XG that puts me off him; it's his price, really. So that's why I'd err away. So in isolation, he's a good pick, I think. But in the context of the rest of your team and how that will look by having him, then I don't think he's the best pick. I think there are better other picks. But it wouldn't surprise me if he continued to bang in the goals. I just think Salah's like, if Salah got injured now, I'd bring Mane in for sure. Yeah, I think he's a better. Okay, I think he's a better pick than Bruno. Put it that way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
I maybe see it as a bad thing, purely from the perspective of they're not going to pan every team. He's not going to get 10 chances in every game. And if he's only putting away 1 in 10, how many games does it take him to do that? I mean, yes, he scored 2 goals in 4 games, but I think Liverpool have one of the highest XGs overall of any of the teams. That it won't continue to be that high as they face better opposition, or maybe go through drop in form, or the team has to rotate a little bit for Champions League or the cup games or whatever. And I don't have confidence that he will continue to return if he gets less chances.
Interesting. Yeah, good point. About, I mean, yeah, the fact that 2 of the XG came from that one game is something for sure. Yeah. Well, what more can we say on Mane?
Well, I think you've already said disregard it because of the price
base.
anyway. So we're not recommending him.
We've covered the base, exactly. So Antonio is next. I think we're coming up. Let's leave Antonio for now, because we'll talk about what to do with him, because a lot of people owed him. He got the red card. What do we do? Is a big question with Antonio that we'll come on to. DCL in third, as we said, hasn't started. It was cryptic from Benitez this week, wasn't it? He said he's been training with pain and with an injury. I think most people took that to mean that he'll start, because he'd been training with that injury all season so far, and he was photographed in training. So I think it is a bit of a shock, really, that he's not in the squad at all this week. Yeah, and disappointing, really, for most owners. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a DCL owner, so I haven't had my magnifying glass over the DCL injury concerns, but I think he's a great option, and actually at that price point in the strikers, like it's kind of between him and Antonio, similar price points. I think they're the best definitely options at the moment, those two. And everyone kind of looked at Everton's fixtures as well, because they've got Villa, then Norwich up next too. But if DCL's not going to be fit, then yeah, you don't want to be taking risks on that, because the striker slots are so valuable at the moment, aren't they? We talked earlier on that maybe all the values in the midfielders, now that's on its head. So I think you can't be wasting a striker slot on someone who's either not an enabler or someone who's just going to be injured, for example.
Yeah, I think, how injured is he is going to be the question. How much blood from the stone that is Benitez can we draw in terms of information on this injury now? Because it is definitely a concern, especially if you own Antonio and DCL. Antonio's not going to be in the next game. If you're thinking of benching him for now, but you've got DCL, who may also be out, it may force a bit of a hand on a transfer, I think. But yeah, I think it's a wait and see. As you say, if he's fit, fantastic option. Let's wait and see what the extent of this injury is, I think is the bottom line on DCL.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, so obviously don't bring him in if you haven't got him yet. If you've got him, wait and see. Fourth, Mo Salah. What more can you say? For me, the most essential player in the game. Don't think about it. Get him in your team. Captain him a lot of the time if you're in any doubt. That's all I would say about Salah. Thoughts?
I can't agree more. He was
Yeah,
electric against Leeds.
he was. Yeah, just great assist potential, great goal potential. Yeah, get him in your team. Build the rest of the team around him. Done. Gallagher. A more interesting chat maybe we can have about Gallagher. 5.6 now, I think. I think he went up in price. Shining for Palace. I think he's on corners. He's everywhere for them. He's bringing the most out of their other players. Is he on your radar, Josh?
He is for his performances. I'm not looking to bring him in at the moment purely because I'm not looking to wildcard. So therefore, I'm not really. He's too expensive to be someone who's just sat on your bench. You want to start him, right? So, and I have, I think, apart from Rafinha, no one from the midfield that I would want to get rid of for him. I'm also a bit wary that, bar this game week, I know he cropped up with a goal earlier on, but Crystal Palace as a team, I would not have a lot of confidence in. So obviously Tanganga got sent off this week. Palace were definitely up for it, watching the game, but Spurs just rolled over after they lost Tanganga. Dyer got injured after 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Romero wasn't there as well. Son also wasn't in the game. They looked like a wounded animal, basically.
That's a great way of putting it. They were a wounded animal, but I'd say even before the injuries and the red card, they were still hanging on. It was Palace going for it. Yeah, I always write off Palace every year. I'd never think about them, not even Zaha anymore. But I do wonder. And speaking of the wedding again, one of them was a Palace fan. This guy, and he was very excited about Vieira and the post Hodgson era of attacking mentality for Palace. That Edouard came on 2 goals. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on him. And if it came to, I think he's the best under 6 midfielder now, no doubt in my mind. Like better than Smith Rowe. I think he's better than Gray, although Gray will probably bang in a couple tonight. Yeah, if I had to downgrade to enable, I'd go for
Gallagher.
I'd go for Gallagher.
Yeah. I mean, at that price, 5.6, to get what is a nailed playmaker for any team is incredible, isn't it? Because that's what he is. I mean, in that Crystal Palace game, everything good went through him. He tied the midfield to the attack.
Yeah.
He looked like was given a free role. He's on set pieces. I mean, that's a lot of potential points, even for a team that maybe you're not 100% confident in. They've got Liverpool next. You know, take that what you will out of that. I mean, if you're trying to maybe try and beat the price rises that he may have coming, then you might want to just get him in anyway. But they've got Brighton, Leicester, Arsenal, and Newcastle. So he's definitely one to watch, isn't he?
No doubt about it. Quickly moving on to the top 5 for XA, so expected assists. So Trent's at first, Jesus second, Mason Mount in third, Grealish fourth, and Antonio joint fifth, I guess, with Grealish. So I guess we can go through these, Josh. Trent, for me, he's the defensive Salah in that I think just get him in your team and don't think about it. Don't think about, well, I mean, we're going to come on to the big 4 debate if you're wildcarding or if you want to get those big 4 premiums in, and he is one of them in my book. For me, he's essential. I've had it before when I've gone without him, and he's always killed me when I haven't had him. So now I'm just bring him in and enjoy his points would be my advice. Liverpool looking good for clean sheets. He's created the most chances in the league by a distance, I think. I think he's created 20 chances and the next one's 13 with Jesus. I mean, yeah. Thoughts on Trent?
Everything that you said, and then you consider he's 7.5, which is incredible valuation. If that was a midfielder, and I know obviously the points will be calculated differently, but if you look at the sum of points that he has now, and you see him as a midfielder, and you say this guy's 7.5, we'd all be saying you've got to get him in straight away. People look differently because he's a defender, but in that Liverpool team, he basically has a free role almost down that right hand side, and the midfielders work to cover him because he's often in the middle of the pitch, or overlapping or underlapping or whatever down that right hand side. I think he's, as you said, the fourth premium.
Yeah, he's got his confidence back, hasn't he, as well? Like last year he definitely had a blip. He had COVID. It was a weird year anyway. He wasn't looking himself. Now he definitely looks back to himself, I would say.
Yeah, got to have him.
Better than more. It seems to be more penetrating than Robertson is at the moment. Whereas Robertson, at times, Robertson has eclipsed him for short periods, I would say. But Trent overall easily justifies the 0.5 more. Jesus, he's here again. He's making assists. He's a rebirth winger. Jesus, are you tempted, or is the City philosophy of avoid all, does that still apply to Jesus for you, Josh?
You made a good point about this, I think, last week, where he's great. He kind of passed that test of, the underlying stats, plays for a great team, looks to be getting consistent selections now that we're seeing. But the fact that he's a striker and stealing one of those very, very important striker slots, and his price point, I think it takes him off the table. So, if you want to go for him as maybe not a differential of sorts, but I think there are better options if you need to kind of gain some points from somewhere outside of the template, maybe, then he may be a good shout, but personally not for me.
I do agree. I mean, if these strikers continue to drop like flies, Antonio and DCL, then I think I'll look more at him. And if he continues to start, I think he's definitely more tempting. But again, a bit expensive. The City rotation, exactly what you said, Josh. There's still things to be wary of with him. Yeah, Mason Mount. I stick by what I said last week. I think he's a good option. I really do. Yeah, the other 7.5 mids this week did disappoint. Traore, Torres, Jota. They didn't come through with points. Did Mason get any points, actually?
He didn't play.
Oh, there you go. Avoid.
And I have to admit, I don't know why he didn't play, but I think...
Is that a Champions League thing? What's going on?
Not sure at all. But I think what it points to then again is the depth of that Chelsea team, that they can go out and put a 3-0 performance in. I know it was a tough game. You probably know more than me. You watched it with more interest than me, I'm sure.
I didn't even know he didn't play, Josh. So clearly, I was at the wedding. So there you go.
But I'm not sure why he didn't make an appearance. But Ziyech, I'm assuming, came in to kind of replace him in that role, because still we had, Havertz, Lukaku all going on. Kovacic, Sol, their new signing, came on and was replaced by Jorginho later
Apparently
on.
he was awful first half, Sol, yeah. I mean, Tuchel even said, did you see his quote on him afterwards? Like, he wasn't ready, my fault. He was making loads of mistakes, had to take him off. I take responsibility. So that was quite blunt from Tuchel there. Yeah, I mean, is that Chelsea midfield becoming a bit City-esque in terms of avoid, be careful?
Without knowing the reasons why Mount didn't play, I can't say that Ziyech had an amazing game. You look at his stats for that game: 0.04 xG, 0.07 xa. It didn't look like he had an amazing influence in creating chances or having opportunities himself. So
Kovacic was the main threat, to be fair, surprisingly, creatively.
From a deeper role, yeah. So, I mean, I think we can't comment on Mount's current interest, because obviously we don't know the reason why was this just a potential knock or availability. But I think the point still stands that you mentioned from last week. We're interested in him because of those underlying stats, and normally he's nailed on. That still applies for me. I obviously wouldn't really get him in until I've kind of got my eye on Chelsea's amazing run from game week 7 onwards. Yeah. So I would say if you don't have him, don't see him as an essential. There are other options still that are maybe a little bit better and more nailed on. Maybe look to a little bit later when you've got more info on him.
Yeah, good point, I think. Good point. And then the last two, Grealish and Antonio. As I say, we'll talk about Antonio next. Jack Grealish, he continues to start for City and continue to create chances. I think still only 1 goal, 1 assist for Jackie Boy. 8 million. Have your thoughts changed on Grealish? You tempted?
I just think he's quite expensive for someone who maybe doesn't have that high a ceiling compared to some of the others around that price point. Something just doesn't sit right with me about bringing him in. I think that 8 million is maybe better spent elsewhere, and I can't really tell you why. Underlying stats for the XA's in the top 5, he's obviously going to have an influence, and because he came in for 100 mil, you'd think he'd have more minutes compared to the others. But it says something that a lot of other players in that City attack, be it midfield or attackers, have kind of come up with more points than him so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what's happening with Grealish is less. When he was at Villa, the number one philosophy was get the ball to Grealish first before you do anything else. Look up, see if can you find Grealish? Yes. Pass to him. No. Look, do something else. He's obviously not the main man at City now, so chances are getting created not through him necessarily. And I think I know he started every game so far, but that the sword of Peppercles can fall at any time, and the dagger or sword, whatever, Pep's sword can slice at any time. And it was every time a team sheet comes out, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Grealish bench, would it? He's still amongst the mix. He's still in the mixer for that rotation. So I agree. It's an avoid still, unless those numbers start perking up, I would say, in terms of output. Yeah, he's just another very good player in the City mixer now. That means avoid.
And they got loads of them.
Yeah, they do. He's just the latest ingredient in the trifle.